Good afternoon, BlackBerry developers. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Love it. We're here. We've got BlackBerry 10 out the door. And now it's time to start making money. Who wants to make some money? Right? And have fun making money. So let me tell you about this pyramid scheme that I've got going on. No, it's not a pyramid scheme. In all honesty, I'm glad you've all joined me today to talk about your app potentially ending up in the corporate perimeter. I personally believe this is the most profitable place that your app can end up, is in this perimeter. And if you don't believe me, look at the tens and thousands of application development companies that exist in the business ecosystem and how many exist in the non-business ecosystem. Clearly, those who've been in this game and make a lot of money selling software, make it selling it to enterprise. It's a great place to be. So if an enterprise picks your app to be in the corporate perimeter, you've made it. You've done something right, in my personal opinion. And I want to talk to you about that today because it has some ramifications for all of you. So just quickly so I understand my audience real quick, show of hands. How many are developers? Okay. How many business analysts, architects? Any administrators? Okay, good. We got a diverse group. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail with some of the stuff that's there. I ended up with 44 slides, and there's just no possible way I'm going to be able to do 44 slides in an hour. But I started doing all this research to try and get it together. And the real end game for me was you could take this presentation after I'm done and look at some of the key highlights. I want to emphasize that everything we're doing is a work in progress. So the next time that the next version of the BlackBerry Enterprise Server is released, there's all new stuff that we have to be aware of. So this is just kind of an entry point to start getting aware of where we're at. I sifted through a 100-page manual that talked about all the IT control policies that could impact you and tried to boil the ocean down to some really useful data. So we'll get to all that. My name's John Mutter. I work for BlackBerry. And I've been at BlackBerry now for just about 5 years. Before that, I was at JPMorgan Chase, where I ran Chase Mobile. I was vice president of technology there for their retail business. I wrote my first BlackBerry app in 2004. I was featured for a Wireless Leadership Award by, at then RIM, now BlackBerry. In 2007, I've been in the community for a long time, so I didn't just pick up an iPhone and suddenly become an expert on mobility. I'm not allowed to say that, am I? Okay, just pretend you didn't hear me say that. And on the recording, we'll make it scratchy there. And anyways, it's my pleasure to be with all of you today. So why don't we go ahead and get going? I got a lot of slides to go through. So first of all, we're going to talk about the corporate perimeter, get kind of how you test on it, what you need to know, and then move our way into selling apps in the enterprise. And everything except for what you need to know is just kind of a basic. And we'll go deep dive on the what you need to know, okay? So we won't fluff it up too much. Corporate perimeter, brief primer. BlackBerry Enterprise Server traditionally has been a requirement to do email on BlackBerry. I say BlackBerry Enterprise Server is now for developers, not for administrators. Who's shocked to hear me say that? God, I love it. Nobody's shocked. That's good. All of the cool features of BlackBerry Enterprise Server are really all about developing. Unlocking balance, right? So balance represents that secure app container that's available for you to write apps where your apps reside in a secure space. Kind of solve for you that always-on bidirectional VPN, the connection service. And of course, BlackBerry World for Enterprise, or we're calling it BlackBerry World for Work. So in this case, it is a app distribution, management, version control for individuals, groups, mandatory, optional, whitelisting of catalog applications. It's the whole package, on top of all the other MDM features that exist. But the corporate perimeter really is this space that gets unlocked when you form the relationship with the BlackBerry Enterprise Server. So the first, of course, is personal work. I show you how it kind of works here. It's a simple swipe down. And this is my actual BB10 device. It's not been approved for use today. So, but instead of doing all these fancy slides and stuff, it's best to just see how it works, right? So obviously, all I have to do is swipe down on the device with one finger. And that prompts you want to go into personal or into work. When I select work, it changes the physical appearance of the device and also changes the apps that are available. So you can see now I really only have a limited number of applications that exist. This is a clearly defined delineation between what's personal and what's work. Everything that's in this space is owned by my corporation, and if they were to eliminate this perimeter, all of the applications and any data stored within the perimeter are eliminated. So we'll be talking about it a little bit later on, but your apps that actually get installed in here have their own file structure space that's the same as what would have been in a personal space, but is dedicated to enterprise. And if this perimeter is destroyed, all of the data that's in it is also destroyed and removed from the device. So things that you need to be aware of. Going back and forth is actually pretty simple, as you can see. It's seamless. While I have the work perimeter unlocked, I can work between the two environments seamlessly. There's no, okay, wait, I got to go put in this and do that and do this to get into it. It's just that it manages it for you. So if you create a process where the end user is responsible for doing specific tasks to work within the perimeters, it gets too complicated. But having it done automatically, it's easy for the users, and that's what we tried to accomplish. So here's a great example. I'm going to go ahead and open up File Manager real quick because I love to show this, and I'm going to go ahead and throw that into my tile, and then you'll see the card show up. So you can see I've got access to the device, the SD card, box, and other things that are there. Now I'm going to switch on over to work, and I'm going to open up File Manager here. So you can see the two apps are now running side by side with one another. And if you look on the left, you can see it only has access to the device, whereas on the personal side, you see all this additional stuff that's available. So you start to understand how it's kind of restricted access that's there. So the two apps are running simultaneously with different levels of access. And if I did something crazy like locked the perimeter, you'll see it instantly put me back into my personal space and locked File Manager and access to it. That doesn't mean it's shut down. That doesn't mean that your stuff doesn't exist anymore. It just means to get back into it again, I've got to enter a password. So pretty straightforward. Now use that for context as we kind of continue on with the slides. So I'll switch back to my PC and keep going. So I kind of tried to explain to you there what's up with personal and work. I don't need to read from the slide. The connection service, the behind the firewall access that occurs when you join that relationship with the BlackBerry Enterprise server is one of your strongest assets. So now you actually can build applications with enterprise partners that extend to their back-end systems, no firewall rules, no special ports that have to be opened. You go right through the BlackBerry Enterprise server. So if that BlackBerry Enterprise server is sitting behind the firewall, whatever it has access to, you have access to. Any protocol, any port, no complications. It's handled through the connection service. So you see that ties directly into the work perimeter and only the work perimeter. So as a developer, what do you have to do? Deploy via Enterprise BlackBerry World for work, and you're done. You have access. Pretty simple.
How's that working with bring your own device?
So if you bring your own device, so the question was, how does that work with bring your own device? All right. If you bring your own device and you connect it to the enterprise, and they connect it through enterprise or through BlackBerry Enterprise server,
Let's say they don't have a desk.
then there's no way to extend this to them. They can just do email, like any of the other smartphones that are out there. But if they do connect it through BlackBerry Enterprise server,
VPN, they want to connect to it anyway.
then connect through the BlackBerry Enterprise server. It will then encrypt and secure all their email. It'll unlock the capabilities of balance. It'll also open up this work perimeter, and it'll unlock all the features that we're talking about. The only way you can get that is through connecting through the BlackBerry Enterprise server. Yes, sir?
Are there any special requirements for data plans to connect to BES 10?
Are there any special requirements for data plans to connect to BES 10? That was a question, right?
Yeah.
There is a BlackBerry plan that is still required to do BlackBerry Enterprise services. Your carriers will be able to tell you more specifically what you need to work with them. So I'm not qualified to say what you need from any specific carrier.
So it's carrier specific?
It will be carrier specific as to what the plan is and what it involves. I don't have the specific information. I could get it for you individually.
But that service will be launched in most countries, right? Do you know if there are any countries that won't have that?
I don't know that answer. I'm sorry. I could make one up.
I can make one.
No, you want facts? Okay. BlackBerry World for Work. This is one of our strongest features as well, above and beyond just balance. This gives enterprises the ability to take applications, the bar files themselves, host it behind their firewall. So if I'm a corporation and I write some software that I want to deploy to my end users, I can build my source code, I can compile my source code, and I can publish it to my private catalog, all behind the firewall. I don't have to show any of my source code to BlackBerry. I don't have to share it with anybody. I don't have to get permission to do anything. It's my source code. I'll deploy it the way I want to. You can also buy solutions from partners, from developers who built enterprise solutions and host their solution behind your firewall as a one-off or as an actual application. So you can actually get that bar file, supply it to a major corporation with a site license, which we'll get into that in a little bit, and let them deploy your app that way. It's a very cool feature. It's only available to the users who've activated against that BlackBerry Enterprise server. So you actually have to physically be activated against it, and you can unlock all the capabilities of it. The software is very easy to manage and control. I'll just kind of show you this one little thing. It shows a couple of apps that are here. We talk about how you can mark them as optional or required. So required apps can automatically be deployed to the BlackBerry smartphone. So you have this full management environment. You can control the versions that are deployed and to where, and as well as manage users and groups. So you have quite a scalable software distribution solution that's built into BlackBerry Enterprise Server, and that extends to you in this space. All right, let's get into testing work apps, because everyone's curious how I test it. So you've heard about our new simulator tools that handle this? No, because they don't exist. I'm very, very sorry. I have absolutely no simulated tools that can assist you in testing your app for the corporate perimeter. There is only one way to test it. Go get yourself a Bez Server 10 install, put it in your infrastructure, grab a 60-day free trial of the cow, and publish it, activate a device against it, publish it, and see what you got. That's all I have right now to give you testing into that environment. No simulators, nothing. There's a number of IT control policies that can work against you or for you. It's important to know what they are, and we'll put those out there. But there's no better way to see what's going to happen than to just go get your own Bez server and put it out there.
Still require an Office Exchange server.
So it can work with Exchange. It can work with Domino and other products. So it's basically Bez. Anything that supports Bez is fine. You got to have something, right? Yes, sir.
Is the Bez 10 server an upgrade to the existing one? You've got a mixture of BlackBerry 10 and 7 devices. They all connect to the same server.
So, that's the ultimate goal. The question was, if you've got a mixture of BlackBerry, your current BlackBerries and then BlackBerry 10s and playbooks and stuff, is there a single Bez that will control them all? Is that what you're asking? So that's in the roadmap. I think you'll hear more about that as BlackBerry Enterprise Server 10, nicknamed Bez 10. We've just released Bez 10, but there's still some components that you have to add in there. And I think that they're discussing that shortly you'll have a one unified BlackBerry Enterprise server that does everything. Good? What you need to know. Android. Can't do it. How many people, this is the first time you've heard that you can't bring Android into the work perimeter? It's okay. Show of hands. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I really do. Unfortunately, there's not an Android runtime that exists inside of the work perimeter, and therefore your app, if it is an Android app, would not run inside of that space. So everything's fair game except for Android in the space. So if you've written an Android app, it's not going to work. I can tell you that right out of the blocks. It's got to be a WebWorks app, or it's got to be an Air app, or it's got to be an NDK or a Cascades app to operate. So I don't know of any, and this is my next question I always get, I don't know of any plans to bring that runtime capability into the enterprise perimeter. I'm not saying it's never going to happen. I'm just saying I don't know of any plans to make that happen.
Any specific reason for that? Security.
Yeah, Android's kind of a sticking point for a lot of our key enterprise and government accounts who I guess just don't trust it. So I could go on and give a million reasons that are completely inappropriate for me to give, and maybe when they stop recording, we'll sit down and I'll just make stuff up all day. Fantastic.
I'll ask silly questions.
Bar files. So anyone who's publishing apps into App World, you obviously, or BlackBerry World, you obviously know what your bar files are and what you've got going on. You should be ready for your corporate customers to say, can I get a copy of your bar file? And in addition to being ready for that, you should know what you want to do when they ask you about that. Sure, I absolutely do. How many users are we talking about? Would you like to get an enterprise site license? We renew them manually. You know, that type of stuff. You can negotiate the way you hand your bar file off to a corporation completely separate of BlackBerry. You don't need our approval, and you don't have to share any money with us. You work out with your corporation how you want to handle that. But I would strongly encourage you, if you want to target enterprise or you know it's coming, they may come to you and ask for a bar file, and it's just good to have a plan up front. This is what I'm going to do when they come to me. So your application, if it's deployed in the work perimeter, will only be visible inside of the work perimeter. They can install a second copy of your application as well. Was anyone aware of that? So your app could actually be installed on the device twice. And if you are selling it for 99 cents, you could actually sell it to the same person twice, which I think is amazing. That's fantastic, right? Who's got a problem with that? Well, the customer might, right? But if you look at it, if it gets placed through the corporate perimeter, your customer, your end user didn't buy that app. The corporation did. And on the other side, the personal side, the individual bought it. So I see it as you sold it to two people on one device. I don't have a problem with that. We could discuss it later, but so lots of opportunity exists in that space that you could actually have that app installed in two different places. You may potentially have to deal with support issues around, okay, I installed this app, I can't find it. It's only in the work perimeter. It's only the personal perimeter. Explaining the differences to enterprise customers that might actually be asking you where it is, how you find it, where you get to it. Good? I created this little map to show you some of the logic of the work and personal perimeter. And we could spend a lot of time just kind of going through it all. And this is what I was saying, in that some of the slides, really just get a hold of the slide deck and use it as a reference point or a job aid for you as you kind of go on. But to kind of put it in context, I'm going to grab my phone here. I'm going to unlock it real quick without you all seeing my super secret password. And I'm going to switch back to, here we go. Let me go ahead and throw these closed real quick. And let's grab I'm going to jump in the work perimeter, and I'm going to take a picture of you all. Whoop, it came up with a little warning. Hold on, I want to see that warning again. Thanks. That's amazing. All right. So I'll just, real quickly, I'd go more to the room, but the lights are creating a negative experience. And I'll take a picture. So now the question is, where has this picture been saved as it exists, right? And if we jump into the file structure and go look at where we can find it, we'll go into Photos. Oops. And it's supposed to actually be in Photos. Camera. There we go. Thank you. No. I love it. So awesome. So let's go in here and we'll do share. This is definitely not working the way it's supposed to. All right. So that was a cool demo. Hey, come on, you guys know how the demos work, right? I don't have to tell you. You've all stood up on the stage before, I'm sure. All right. So the way that was supposed to go down is you take a picture, all right, and it's not available to you inside the personal perimeter, only in the work perimeter, right? Because I was in work mode when I did it. Now, it works that way in a lot of different things that are inside of the device. So contacts. Let's say I've written an app that's going to reach into contacts and look at contacts. When you've got an app that's installed in the personal perimeter, the contacts that your app is going to be able to see are those that are personal. Twitter, Facebook, personal mail, those type of things. When you're in work perimeter, using that same app, you now have access to all contacts. Work contacts, personal contacts, Facebook, Twitter, everything that's there. All one big cohesive group. So being in work mode unlocks a lot more stuff, but it also does restrict some stuff. So perhaps you're invoking an app that you've got expectations of being there in a certain state. It might be restricted in the way that you use it when you go into the work perimeter as opposed to the personal perimeter. And this can kind of define the logic for you on how things go. The thing I want to talk about is hybrid apps and dual apps. Obviously, the work and personal stuff kind of makes a lot of sense. But inside of dual apps, you'll see that we've actually created an enterprise version of the app and a personal version of the app. So file manager, docs to go, the browser. The browser has a work browser and then a personal browser, one that's tied to the carrier's internet, and then one that's tied to the BlackBerry connection service, that always on bidirectional VPN. We've also got a place to store pictures and music and video content, print to go, and then of course, this other category. Also, the hybrid apps like your calendar, contacts, unified inbox, reminder, and universal search, these particular functions are aware of whether or not you're in work mode or personal mode and can dynamically reflect the content based on what state you're in. All right.
Sorry.
Yes?
Is it possible for third-party developers to create hybrid or dual apps?
Not at this time. So it's locked down as to what it is, because it's part of the core operating system, the microkernel, to be aware of which one it is. But if you've got a really compelling idea about what you'd like to build as a hybrid app, then you should talk to somebody inside RIM or BlackBerry. I don't know what that company is, RIM, and see what we can do to partner on that type of idea.
You can install both sides of the...
Say that one more time.
You can install on work and personal anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You can install them both, absolutely. So a great example would be like, I do Twitter for a personal perspective, but work also has me potentially do Twitter, right? So I could have 2 copies of Twitter installed, one in my work perimeter, one in my personal. So inside my personal, I can do all the stuff that I would do and not have access to any of my work stuff. But my work one would have full access, unrestricted access to the device. Good? Okay. I wanted to talk about some of the file system paths. I think that they're relevant. What I would suggest is everything that exists in the personal is mirrored in the enterprise. So what you need to be aware of as you reference these specific QDIR paths or whichever one you're working with, there's a personal one, and then there's also an enterprise one. Using it here, it's aware of where you are. You don't have to specifically call it out. If it's a work app and you say, home path, it's going to give you the home data directory path for the enterprise perimeter. You don't have to know off the top of your head which one you're going for. So I spelled out a few of these so you would know the variables and where they all kind of go. Log, shared, temp, and others. So please, when you get a copy of this presentation afterwards, you're more than welcome to use this as a guide so I don't have to sit here and read the slide to you. And that gets us to the biggest part of the presentation, which is the IT policy guide that governs what the BlackBerry Enterprise Server can and can't do to your apps. So, yes, sir?
Quick question before we go to that. I'm sure there's a way for the app to know which perimeter it's in, right? You can ask if it's in work or personal. So you could potentially take away some features for work or right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what API you use to do that. I'm not saying that's not there,
As far as I know, there are no APIs. You don't even care about.
You can't know.
But you can give better bar file to the corporation, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not aware of an API to do that.
I've heard that when you develop application, it doesn't matter, you just put that
Yes.
and it works.
So the question that was just asked is there an API I can use to determine if I'm in the corporate perimeter? And the answer was, I'm not aware of an API that would give you that determination. So, good? All right, that was really good. I think that's an enhancement that should be created. So,
Nice to know in case you want some features enabled for.
yeah, no, that's good. That's very, very good. Okay, so moving right along, this particular policy guide, yes, sir, in the back.
Is there a way to prevent your app from being installed in the enterprise perimeter?
Is there a way to prevent your app from taking installs into the enterprise perimeter? Yes, build it in the Android runtime.
But only administrator can force what is installed. You cannot install by yourself an enterprise.
That's correct. There is no way to manually put an app into the enterprise perimeter. It must be installed by an administrator of the BlackBerry Enterprise Server. It must be activated against the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, and they select it. They can do it through one of two means, which, if I missed it, forgive me. They can publish your bar file behind the firewall, or they can select your app from the catalog and whitelist it. Did I show you what that looked like? I don't know what I have in here.
So it'd be something
My-
like Twitter would be whitelisted.
So inside of my BlackBerry world for work, you can see here's the company apps that we've published behind the firewall. And then here's public apps that we've made available, which none. This is it's a test server that we're against, so we haven't really.
So if I read correctly, you can also push application to install silently.
Yes.
User to know.
So the question was, I understand there's a way that you can push applications to push silently without the user even knowing. And the answer is yes. So if we go in here into, in my world, I think I had an app that was pushed to me against my will. They're never against my will. I love all apps, right?
There is a protection. You just fill your storage.
Yes. He said the protection is just fill your storage. That makes perfect sense. That's brilliant. That's amazing. So none of these are mandatory, unfortunately, so I don't have one that I can show you on my device. What happens is the developer would, and I think I had one of the, we're losing ground. This is how it happens. There. What the developer or what the administrator would do is select the application and mark it as required, and that would automatically install the device on, or install the software onto the user's smartphone. It's not optional, it's required, you're getting it. And if you find some way to delete it, it will come right back. So that's a fun party trick though. Anyways, if you could pull it off. So good, question taken care of? Did I get it or did I speak too soon? Okay, let's dive into the fun stuff. So what I did is I went through this policy guide and I tried to find every single IT policy as it exists today that could impact an application and then just summarize it in some useful verbiage. It worked out to about 19 slides that talk about each one. I'll be very brief and we'll just muscle through them, okay? I included as a link for you the 101-page manual that you are more than welcome to download and check out. I think that these are all relevant policies because, well, let's start with the first one, wireless service provider billing. Specify whether a BlackBerry device user can purchase applications through BlackBerry World, right? So some people will have the ability through their corporate plan to buy your app using their corporate account, and some people won't. So if it's your plan to sell a 99-cent app to enterprise, some people won't have the mechanism to be able to buy that 99-cent app. Perfect. So keep that in mind. What we see are incredibly effective Enterprise apps is where you can basically give it away for free on the personal side with very limited functionality. So the example that I frequently use is I've created an app that captures receipts and receipt details, okay? So, you know, I'm finished my lunch meeting, I just take a picture of the receipt, copy down the details, and it stores all that. And when I'm ready, it kind of creates a CSV and ships it off in an email. The very, very basic core functionality, right, of that app is captured within a free version that anybody can download and use. You've created a viral plant of your shareware to sneak into enterprise. Then you've got all these enterprise customers saying, this is fantastic. And now there you are saying, yeah, well, that's the free version. My licensed version has a connector in the back end that ties right into SAP and allows you to import those expense items as you create each one. So, oh, well, how much is that? Oh, it's just $50 per user per month, whatever your terms are, right? And I give you the bar file, and then every year we just meet up and we talk about how many users you have, and then you just deploy it as you want to. And then we get together in Jamaica, and we're having a good time. Okay. So in this particular one, just so we'll do the first one in exhausting detail so that all the other ones will just kind of make sense. Is that cool? All right. So on the very top, I've told you what the actual IT control policy is that they can apply to you, the wireless service provider billing. That's its little technical name. I've given a description here in the middle. And then in the bottom, although it's not showing up well on this slide, I don't know why, the colors are a little weird. I've given you what the default setting is. So most enterprise admins are not going to change these settings by default, but they might. So I've also told you what the possible values are on the end, allow or disallow. I've also told you where it was introduced, 6.2, and the minimum BlackBerry 10 OS version that's required to support it. Not a big deal today, since 10.0 is really all we have access to, but there's a lot more 10.x's in the pipe, and it's good to just start this from the beginning so everyone kind of knows where we're at. And this will be a good work in progress as we go. All right, the next one, application security timer reset. So we're basically, enterprises are like, wait a minute, you can't just unlock it and leave it unlocked forever. Eventually it's got to lock itself again. So in this case, we've got some IT control policies that could potentially force it closed. So if you've got something running that requires a screen to stay up and you're trying to keep it from going into sleep or locking itself, this could be an impact to you, and I've put it in here so you're aware of it. Navigation was a great example. So say you build a field service app and you're providing detailed driving directions or something to a field service rep. That could get in your way. The next one is backup and restore the workspace. So a lot of people get bent out of shape about backing up that secure perimeter into a file that can now be attacked independently. So IT control policy would either allow or disallow this behavior. How does that impact your app? Well, your app data is some of that stuff that gets put in there. So if I'm a banking app and I've written, I don't know, secure data to the file system and what I see as secure space, how could this IT control policy impact me if it's captured through a backup or whatever the case may be? Here's some things to think about. Computer access to workspace. As it stands, you cannot hook up a BlackBerry to a laptop and get into the enterprise perimeter. You're not doing that. So we've created some IT control policies that might potentially allow some ways around that. For whatever reason they want to do that stuff. Who knows? So this is some things you have to be aware of. Restrict development mode. Prevent sideloading. So if you're an IT organization and you don't want your users to be able to just put apps on by themselves in any capacity, personal or otherwise, this is an IT control policy that could be applied to you. So if your strategy is to do sideloading, it could be impacted within the enterprise. Yes, sir?
You just said personal or otherwise. I thought this only applied to the work program.
It does, but it applies to the device as a whole. Does that make sense?
No, because the whole idea of bringing your own device is that you bring a device which is your personal element.
Right.
You can back that up, you can do whatever sideloading you want to the personal side, but the VS controls the work side.
It does. But there are some device-specific things that enterprise insists on having control over, for whatever reason.
Does this mean
So the question was just asked, if your corporation is buying devices and you don't want them to be able to have a personal perimeter, basically. So this is kind of difficult because I know the answer to the question, but I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Can we answer that offline? Yeah. I know the answer, I don't know what I'm supposed to say, if that makes sense. Yes, sir?
I have one question. Personal perimeter cannot access to the corporate one.
That is correct.
But why the corporate can have a read-only access to the personal?
It's limited read-only to the personal, right? So corporate can't go and look at your browsing history and that type of stuff, right? You can't have that kind of stuff. But from a corporate perimeter perspective, you could access personal assets from a read-only perspective and use them. So, you know, imagine that I took a picture on my personal time that I want to share with work coworkers. It's available, you can get to it, and you can distribute it in that way. Same way you would with any PC asset. Good? Yes, sir.
This best server, S10, does the administrator of this server have access to your personal?
So the question was, does the BES admin have access to your personal data? The answer is no. Good?
So if somebody has stolen your BlackBerry 10 smartphone, and then the corporate administrator from the BES just, how to say, it will wipe out only the corporate part or the whole?
So the question was, if your device is stolen and the BES admin needs to wipe the device, will it get the corporate or the corporate and the personal? The answer is, it depends on the type of wipe that they do. So they have the option of trying to go after the entire device or just the one perimeter. It just depends on the situation. Yes, sir?
As the administrator, how much logging information is available through the personal perimeter? Because as a BES admin, you can see text messages,
Right.
phone logs, all the everything.
So I don't know the exact level of, the question was, as a BES admin, how much visibility do you have to the log items? And I don't know the exact answer to what visibility you have. I'm not aware of really any personal logs that are kept. There are device logs that are available. The specifics of them, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd just be giving you wrong information. We're going to have a make stuff up session later, and I can totally nail that for you. Okay, good. Voice control. Obviously, voice control is a bone of contention sometimes for some of the really, really secure groups. They look at it and they go, well, where's that voice going? How's it getting shipped? How's it encrypted? Oh, never mind, just block it. So they give the ability to do that. So if you're writing an app that wants to piggyback off of the voice control capabilities in the future or in some capacity, just know that it could be impacted by enterprise that could turn it off or on. Voice dictation, same type of thing. This is very specific to in-work apps specifically. Wiping the workspace without network connectivity. So some enterprises say, hey, if this thing hasn't connected in a certain period of time back to the back office, we just want it to kill itself. And so we give that option as it exists. It's been around for a while, and it's actually a very, very powerful profile item. Work network usage for personal apps. So this is actually pretty relevant. When writing native apps, you do have the ability to select the connection that you want to use, regardless of what perimeter you're in. So say you need to do, so who's familiar with the old days of the biz connection and the BES connection and all that stuff, right? Anyone? Okay. So we still have kind of some simplified capabilities that exist in that going forward. You will be able to say, I'd like to request the carrier connection for my app, even if it's in the work perimeter, but only in a native capability. So we don't have that in WebWorks, and I'm not aware of us having that in the Air runtime. You definitely don't have it in Android, obviously. From that perspective, be aware that if you're requesting a connection to the carrier network specifically and you're deployed in the work perimeter, somebody could come along and say, no, you're not allowed to do that. Work perimeter only uses the connection service, so that could happen to you. Network access control for work apps, getting more specific, right? I think this is more towards playbooks, but personal apps access to work contacts. There is the ability to allow personal apps to get in and look at work contacts if allowed. So you could say here, all, only RIM apps, and none are your available options. So if you have an app that needs to be able to get to that work asset, you could specifically request a corporation change that IT control policy to make your app work better. So it is possible. But if you get deployed in the work perimeter, this is a moot point. Personal space data encryption. They have the ability to encrypt the personal space as well. If you put apps in there that's trying to, work with other apps, that could be an issue. Share work data during BBM video screen sharing. Who saw that feature? It's pretty cool, right? How many times have you been like, can you believe what that guy wrote? Look at this. And you show the email. It's because you don't want to forward it. You get in trouble for forwarding it, but you still show it to somebody. Well, corporations don't like that. I don't know why. So they created an IT control policy that could potentially block that behavior. Hey, be aware that it's there. Work app access to personal data. Corporations may not want their work apps to be able to get access to personal data in any capacity, so there's a policy that could specifically disallow that. Yes, sir?
Basically means that it's locked for the whole device.
So the question was, it basically means it's locked for the whole device. So you're saying it's locked for the work and the personal? I'm sorry.
If the admin disallows this feature,
Yes.
is it locked only for the work part of the balance or for both parts?
Well, basically what it says here, right, if this is set to disallow, is that your work apps can't go and touch apps in the personal perimeter. They are only to be inside of the work container. So imagine that I've written an app that this one here? Share work data during BBM video screen sharing. All it says is that if you are doing a BBM video chat, you would not be able to share or show an app that was installed in the work perimeter if this was set to disallow.
Because it again says on the device.
That's right. It can tell every single app whether it's work or not. It's marked. So, good? Did I get it?
I assume the hybrid apps will fall under work in this case.
That's right. Well,
So like email is a hybrid app.
hybrid app, yes and no. So hybrid apps would not really fall under that unless it was unlocked showing work content. So if it was not unlocked showing work content, then it wouldn't be there and it really wouldn't be an issue, right? You'd basically be in personal mode anyways. Good? BBM video access to your work network. In this case, you're basically saying, hey, are we going to allow people to do this BBM video chat stuff over our corporate Wi-Fi, yes or no? Some corporations are crazy about it. Transfer work contacts using Bluetooth. This also, in the next one, is files. So contacts and files. There's controls that could prevent that as well. So if you've created an app that has the ability to share content through Bluetooth, it could be restricted based on IT control policy. That's right. It starts with contacts, goes to files. It also covers NFC as well. Good. Work messages using Bluetooth. So same type of thing. You have the ability to pass all the stuff through the Bluetooth channel. They want to make sure that it's locked if possible because it's just another place. And open links in work email messages in the personal browser. Most are already set to allow on this. So we've all gotten emails with links on stuff that we want to open. Some are to our intranet, some are to the internet, whatever they may be. Sometimes we prefer to open it to the external link, and this is allowable to be able to use the personal browser instead of the work browser. All right, connectivity. So thank you for sitting through that with me. I know that was a lot. That was 19 slides of not a lot of entertainment. So for the next part, I'm going to do a dance, and I'm not sure if the stage can hold me for it, but no, I'm kidding. Connectivity. I try to boil this down into a really simple picture. If you're in your work perimeter, chances are you're using the BlackBerry connection service through the BlackBerry Enterprise server behind the firewall access. If you're using a personal app, chances are you're going through the internet. Straight connection. I'm sorry?
Not a lot of confidence with chances.
Not a lot of confidence. Well, as I just showed you with all the different IT control policies that exist, there are people that can come and muck with those assumptions. So being aware of what could impact it could really help you as you're trying to support a customer who's complaining about issues with connectivity. So to understand it, we start with, well, where's the app installed? Personal perimeter or the work perimeter? If it's in work, it's probably going through this firewall. The firewall is, doing all kinds of things along the way, not from a BlackBerry perspective, but probably more along the lines of, now you're going through their proxy server, their corporate internet. What's allowed, what's not allowed. Whereas in the personal space, you're just doing raw internet provided by the carriers. Good? Did I beat that one? Access to shared resources. These are the big four as I see them. Camera, calendar, mail, and phone. It doesn't matter if you're personal or if you're work, these things all kind of spread across all of them. That's why they were all identified uniquely as hybrid apps. Not one of them is specifically installed in either one container. They're hybrid, they span across both. So their behavior is dictated that way. The best way to make sure that you're covered, protected, and everything's working the way you expect it is to install that BlackBerry Enterprise Server 10, activate a device against it, throw it in the corporate perimeter, and try it out. Make sure it does what you expect. These are the big four. If you're using any one of them, you're in the hybrid container, you need to be conscious of these things coming after you. I got to hurry. Corporate perimeter provides developers with a number of solutions, right? Always on bidirectional VPN, secure app container, as well as enterprise-grade MDM and the app distribution management and control. Can't get these anywhere else, and if you do, they are, well, that doesn't make sense. Can't get them anywhere else. To get these anywhere else, you got to buy like 6 different things. You got to buy solutions from all these different vendors to get things the way you want it. It's all included in this one package that we make available to you. So it's a huge asset for being able to sell enterprise software that's tied directly behind the firewall. Direct licensing is a huge opportunity for our developers as well. You get to cut a deal with your customers without BlackBerry in the middle, taking a piece of your profits. You're going to go right to your customers and say, here's my solution. I give you the software. You install it. Away we go. You negotiate your terms. There's some really great things that come with it, right? I mean, there's seat licensing you do, custom app licensing. You can figure out how you want to sell your product. But Enterprise has some really cool things that they do that I think is great. Number one, Enterprise pays for support. It's not free. They pay for it. Maintenance. You pay maintenance annually. It's fantastic. Maintenance updates. Not usually free. Usually pay for them. So these are all opportunities where you can work with your customers and have more opportunities to collect revenue as a developer. And that's why there's so many enterprise developers who are in the business of making money off of enterprise. So you can literally have your own support mechanism, your own maintenance release schedule, your own all of that you're working directly with each enterprise customer and providing them with the custom files that they host and distribute to their end users inside the work perimeter. You want to ask for it by name. Work perimeter. Questions so far? Obligatory, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Does it say that up there? It should. You can reach me on Twitter at Mutajoe. I used to always put my email address up here, but feel free to send me a tweet, ask any question you have. If you want my email address, I will get you an email address as well, and I will help any way I can. Question in the back.
Is there any way for applications to read the IT policies?
The question was, are there any ways for applications to read the IT control policies? The answer is yes. Okay? But you'd have to work with the IT administrator that manages that environment to be able to do it. So we offer what's called BlackBerry Web Services, which gives you access to your BlackBerry Enterprise service from a web service perspective to be able to go and query things and look things up and make certain calls. So that's not another mobile app, and it doesn't exist on the device itself. It's behind the scenes, but it could give you that functionality you're looking for.
Any success story that you can share with us for an application that came out of the blue and made it really big?
So the question was, any success stories you can share that's come out of the blue and has made it for BlackBerry 10?
Well, not just actually.
Well, we do have a number of enterprise stories that exist for our current BlackBerry products. I came from Chase, where I wrote a home equity line of credit decision engine on a BlackBerry that literally completely transformed and destroyed the housing market in the U.S. You're welcome. So, I mean, you can see the power right there. Before I came along, it was hard to get a home equity line of credit, and I made it so easy to destroy the U.S. economy. I did that for you. Yes, sir.
Well, it might be a very silly question, but for instance, are there already APIs for servers communicating to the best servers? If I want to integrate different services to the best.
So the question was, are there APIs that would allow you to integrate with the BES? Is that right? Well, yes. The BES has the BlackBerry Web Service APIs. So all of our key capabilities are encapsulated in web services that you can call and use. You can't just go and start calling the web services, though. You have to stub them out and get access to be able to use them from your administrator. But with your BES administrator, you should be able to get access to those web services. Does that help? Show of hands. How many people thought this was useful today? Good? All right. Who did I disappoint? Who's disappointed? I want to take you to lunch. Very good. All right, fantastic. All right, well then I will bring this to a close. I would like to thank all of you for joining me today. I wish that I could have given you every answer that you came here for, but if I did not give you something that you were looking for, please shoot me a question on Twitter or come see me. I'll give you my email address if you don't like to tweet. It's fine. I know some people are averse to it. And I will do whatever I can to get you the answer. For those of you who asked questions that I didn't know the answer for, and you need some of that information, I know there was one before where it's just like, hey, I know that answer, but I don't know how I'm supposed to respond. Give me just a second to figure out how I'm supposed to respond to that, okay? And good. Enjoy the show, and thank you very much for helping us launch BlackBerry 10. Appreciate it. No, thank you all.